President Trump planning to take legal action against the BBC sometime next week, while saying he plans to talk with the UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer about it this weekend.
We'll sue them for anywhere between $1 billion and $5 billion, probably sometime next week.
So you're ready to take?
Well, I think I have to do it. I mean, they've even admitted that they cheated.
The BBC did issue an apology to Trump for editing his January 6th remarks ahead of the Capitol riot, but rejected his demands for compensation. The network's documentary omitted the reference Trump made to the, quote, march to the Capitol peacefully and patriotically. Instead, it appears to say, quote, we're going to fight like hell, which was from another portion of the speech about election integrity. Watch.
We're going to walk down to the Capitol, and I'll be there with you. And we fight. We fight like hell. And if you don't fight like hell, you're not going to have a country anymore. We're going to walk down to the Capitol, and we're going to cheer on our brave senators and congressmen and women. And we're probably not going to be cheering so much for some of them, because you'll never take back our country with weakness. You have to show strength, and you have to be strong. We have come to demand that Congress do the right thing and only count the electors who have been lawfully slated. Lawfully slated. I know that everyone here will soon be marching over to the Capitol building to peacefully and patriotically make your voices heard.
Joining us now with her reaction is Liz Truss, the former Prime Minister of the United Kingdom. Former Prime Minister
Good
Truss,
morning.
Great to have you on the program.
Great to be on.
Now, you've had a few brushes with the BBC over the years. What's your reaction to this story?
Well, there are lots of people in Britain who are cheering President Trump on and who want him to sue the BBC because they're a huge problem. They've lied, they've cheated, they've fiddled with footage, both in the case of President Trump, but also covering up what's happening in Britain, whether it's mass migration, whether it's our economic problems. They are always biased towards the left, and the British taxpayer has had to pay for all of this fake news. So there is a lot of excitement amongst conservatives in Britain at the moment that President Trump is actually taking the BBC on.
Do you think an apology from the BBC is enough?
No, I don't, because they keep doing it again and again. They have painted a completely false picture of President Trump in Britain over a number of years. They've done the same thing about conservatives in our country. And I believe the organisation needs to be defunded. And as well as suing the BBC, I think it would be fantastic if President Trump were to encourage stopping the British taxpayer funding what is fake news that is damaging Britain's reputation. I mean, the BBC used to be the paragon of journalism across the world. It was respected. It's now become a laughing stock, and it needs to be put out of its misery.
And the BBC has apologized. The chairman, Samir Shah, has sent separately personal letter to the White House making it clear to President Trump that he and the corporation are sorry for the edit of the president's speech on 6th of January 2021, which featured in the program. The BBC has no plans to rebroadcast the documentary. Madam former Prime Minister, do you think President Trump should get $5 billion? How much do you think BBC is liable for?
Well, I want to see him progress with this legal suit, because I don't think they've been held to account. I bet they carry on printing and publishing and broadcasting fake news, not just about the president, but about the MAGA movement, about the changes that are going on in the world, which many of the British public want to see here in Britain. You know, we're frustrated with mass migration. We're frustrated with the threat to free speech, the fact that people in Britain are being arrested for speaking out on social media. And the BBC is a big part of the problem, because they have failed to really broadcast what is happening in our country. They failed to broadcast the truth about President Trump. So I'd like to see President Trump continue with the lawsuit, really hold the BBC to account, and change the way it behaves forever.
Well, thank you, former Prime Minister Liz Truss.
Good to be on. Thank you.
I'm Steve Doocy.
I'm Brian Kilmeade.
And I'm Ainsley Earhart. And click here to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page to catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis.